Okay, so thanks very much for that, Craig. So I'd just like to welcome everybody to our first meeting since February for the Community Culture and Events Committee meeting. Hi, everybody. And I noticed that we don't have any apologies or leave of absences, and all of the committee members are present, so we don't need to co-opt anyone. And so I'll just move on to item 2 on the agenda. And I'd just like to ask, is there any indications for pecuniary and conflicts of interest? And so as there are none, we'll move on to item number 3, transfer of agenda items. Would anybody like to transfer any of the agenda items?
No.
No. Okay, if there are none, we'll just move on to the items. First of all, item number 4.1, the Salamanca Market Bylaw. Before I ask for somebody to move the motion, I would like the director just to give us some background with regards to this particular item. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. So you'll recall that Council has already seen the draft bylaw in April this year, and you agreed to let it go out to an informal process of consultation with stakeholders. So it was circulated to all individual Salamanca market stallholders, to the Stallholder Association, and to the Waterfront Business Association. So that's about 385 individual addresses that it was sent to. We did receive one response to that from 2 people that are on one stall. They made a number of observations about the bylaw and the powers they felt that the bylaw created. But on balance, when we considered those, the advice of staff is that the bylaw, that as you have it in front of you, does not need changing. When we take into account that we circulated it to 380 odd people and we only had one submission. So I think on balance, our advice to you is that the bylaw in its draft form doesn't need changing as a result of that submission. The process now, if committee and council were to pass this tonight, we then prepare a regulatory impact statement, and it then gets sent to the Director of Local Government for comment. And if the Director approves it, it then comes back to us for broad community consultation. So we advertise it in the newspaper, we circulate it through Council's Your Say network. So it's an open public consultation process. And if there's no feedback from that, then we go ahead to make the bylaw. And if there is feedback from that process, then we would return to committee for a discussion around that feedback. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that. I'd just like to ask somebody to move the motion, please, and then we'll open it up for discussion. Thank you, Councillor Harvey.
Thanks, Councillor Sherlock. Yeah, look, I'm comfortable with the bylaw. These are a process that give us the tools to manage certain things. So being able to manage the market is important, and a bylaw will give us all the tools we need to make informed decisions and regulate the market, basically. So I'm comfortable. I had a read through the bylaw and didn't see anything that's extraordinary or anything. It's just all basic standard kind of bylaw stuff. Only one submission to it, so I'm comfortable that it's a fair and reasonable bylaw and should proceed through the process.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harvey. Anybody else like to make any more comments?
Oh,
Yeah.
I just have a question.
Sorry, after you.
Thank you. Sorry. I was just wondering what the time for the whole process of consultation is likely to be.
Chair, through you, if we go through that process that I just outlined without any further significant feedback, we would likely be in a position that the bylaw is final by August. But if there is significant feedback which causes us to review how we're going about it, then it will add extra time to that.
Thank you.
I just want to make one observation. I think it is in section 19 from memory, and I may be totally wrong, but there is a mention of an indecent and obscene and offensive behavior. There is no definition of what is an offensive behavior.
Chair, we would take that as I guess, essentially a reasonably objective view of that. It would depend on the nature of the material, and it would depend on the nature of the complaint that we received about that material as well.
Okay. As long as it's objective, I'm happy with that, because I think the power is vested in the market supervisor or someone.
Chair, that's right. The way the market operates, the market supervisor, the foreman, is often in a position where they do have to make decisions quite quickly. Obviously, the market's quite a dynamic environment on any Saturday. But our staff are quite well versed, I suppose you could say, in what to look for. And again, you've got to take any complaint on its merits.
Thank you very much. Was there any further discussion on this issue? No. Councillor Harvey, did you were you the mover of the motion as well? Yes, thank you.
I think I moved it, yeah. Well, I'm happy to move it now if I didn't move it before. Yep.
Thank you very much. So just as a matter of voting for it, I'll just ask everyone if they want to vote against it, and then if you'd like to say yes or no, against it. So does anyone vote against the motion? No, great. So I'll declare the item carried, and we'll move on to the next item, which is item 4.2, Salamanca Market temporary site fee. And just as before, I'd like the director just to give us a little bit of background on this issue before I ask for a mover for the motion and further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And committee, this is a good news story. This is about getting the market ready for reopening. I must stress we don't have a date for a reopening, and the way that the current emergency provisions work means that as we sit here now, Salamanca Market can't open because it's not deemed an essential service. Clearly, the government is on a pathway of relaxing restrictions, so we suspect it is only a matter of time before the market in some form can reopen. We don't think it's realistic that the full Salamanca Market would open on the first week. One of the reasons we feel that is we know that a number of our stall holders really want the borders to reopen before they will think that it is worthwhile to trade. But the team did some good survey work with stall holders last week and sent out an expression of interest. So I know the report here, I think, talks about 80 expressions of interest in being involved in a smaller market. I think that number's closer to about 140 now. So we are confident that if restrictions ease, that we will have sufficient stall holder interest to put on a smaller market. And with that comes a smaller amount of patrons. And so when we think of it like that, we also felt it was appropriate to consider a different stall holder fee, just to make sure that we're making it easy for stall holders to come back. To give you an idea, the current casual fee is about $88. And if you're a permanent stall holder, you'll pay a fee anywhere between $64 and $95 a week. You'll note that in the memo, we've not set a specific fee, although we talk about $50. And what we're asking for you tonight is simply to delegate the authority to the general manager to set the fee, and I guess make adjustments to that if it's appropriate. We don't see that will be the need. We think it'll just be one fee and we'll be able to move forward on that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to now ask someone to move the motion and also open it up for discussion. Thank you, Councillor Ewan.
Chair, Peter Sexton here. Just a question through you to the director. When you say that you want us to delegate to the General Manager Authority to set a temporary stall fee, I don't mind that, but I'm assuming that stall fee would be the same for everybody. What I don't want to do is delegate the authority to the General Manager to charge some people $10 and other people $90. I don't mind what fee he ends up with, but I don't want it to be varied once that quantum has been determined by him.
Through you, Chair. Sorry, I should have clarified that. It is a flat fee for all stall holders.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other comments? Any other discussion on this issue? Okay, if there are no more comments, I'd like to now put the motion. So does anyone vote against the motion? Great, so I consider I declare the item carried. Thank you very much, and that ends our meeting for today. And at about 5 o'clock, we'll be moving across to the council meeting. Thank you everyone for coming.